All
right. Well, welcome back to the Evolution with Mac and Jenn podcast. It is Jen here, and if you're watching the video, you might see that Mac is not here with me tonight. So this is just Jen on the Evolution with Mac and Jenn podcast. So I am excited to be here and share. So Mac is working out of town right now, and that's why you just have me. And we were gonna do like a Zoom from where he's at. So like he was going to get on and I'm on. We were going to do something like that because we had nothing to post for tomorrow. But I just decided that, maybe I'll just get on and talk for a minute because normally you guys hear so much from him and I just sit there and smile and nod my head and agree with him and everything he says because he's so good. And so I don't usually say much because I feel like he takes the words out of my mouth sometimes. So I thought I would just get on here alone and just start talking. And I honestly don't really have like a topic off the top of my head. I'm just going to talk and see what goes out. But I first just kind of wanted to talk about my day today. Well, Mac and okay, so this morning I got up and I got ready and I went to Mormon church this morning. And this is my fifth time going to Mormon church. And I've actually really been loving it. So Mac is out of town, and the first four times I went, we've gone together. And this time I decided to go by myself. It was my first time going by myself. And um, I like to say that, I mean, I like to try everything once, twice if I like it, three times to make sure. And so today was my fifth time going to Mormon church, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I am like, I've just been so open these days to trying new things and experiencing new things and wanting to like grow in every area that I'm kind of willing to like do anything within reason. That if I think it will help me to like expand my conscious awareness, if you will. And so Mac grew up going to Mormon church, and I actually did not grow up going to church at all. And I started going to right like Christian church around 2 years ago before I met Mac. I started going to like regular church, and I was really enjoying it. The one that we have here in Colorado that I was going to was just really fun. A lot of like it was more like personal development type church. It felt like a really great church. And then Mac just recently said, I'm kind of like interested in like checking out Mormon church again. He stopped going for a while. And so I was open to it. And so we let's see, I've gone five times, but in the five times I've gone to three different Mormon churches. So I'm definitely experiencing it. I had no idea what I was walking into or what it was going to be like, how different it was going to be from like Christian or like non-denominational church. And I've actually really been enjoying it. The people have all been really nice. Today I left early actually because I took my son with my ex-husband. We went to a Lego festival, and as I'm walking out of the church, a lady was like chasing me out the door. She's like, "Hey, excuse me. I just wanted to introduce myself because I see that you're new." And so she introduced herself and we had a little conversation. But like everybody has been so friendly at this church, and I've been loving it. So I don't know, like we'll see what comes up of it. Like I don't really have any attachments to much these days. I just do what my heart like wants to do, and my heart's like, let's go to Mormon church this morning. So that's what we did, and it was really fun. um then I went to Lego Fest thing with my ex-husband and my son, so that was cool. I appreciate the fact that Brett and I can get along and do things together with our son. So that's really cool. I appreciate that. And I'm really excited because tomorrow, and this is posting tomorrow, so maybe I'll just say tonight. Tonight, I'm doing a master class for women on how to positively influence your man to get what you want. And I am just really excited to do that. I have I think about 42 women signed up for the class tonight. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm just like getting over that. I think doing this podcast has helped me to get over like my nerves speaking a little bit, be more confident in myself and in my abilities. And I just know what I do and what I know and what I've lived and what works. And I'm excited to share it tonight with all these women. How to positively influence your man to get what you want. Because I feel like, and I know this to be true, that the energy that you bring to your relationships is the energy of the relationships. And so, what I'm going to do tonight is teach women how to show up in a way in the right energy to get everything that they want. Because a lot of us, we think we know what we want, but we don't show up in a way to receive what we want. We need to show up different to get different. And so tonight I'm going to be giving like all kinds of tips, strategies, tools, things that they can use to get what they want and it kind of influence their man to show up differently for them. So it's really cool. I've experienced this, all this when I was dating, with my ex-husband, with like literally everybody, even with the universe. Like the universe gives me what I want because I show up in a way that allows it to happen. And it's been this interesting like journey for me, to get to this point. And so to be able to share it, is just really like a blessing. It's really cool. So that will be tonight. And I'm wondering like, what can I say? I want to share about it, more maybe, but I don't want to give it all away. Like I want people to come to the class. And so, if you're listening to this today, like Monday, the 5th, and you want to come, find me on Facebook and send me a message or comment on one of the posts that I've made, and I will send you the link to sign up. But you got to do it today. And if you can't make it tonight, the replay will be available for you to watch. So, but you got to sign up to have access to that too. So it's going to be amazing. With my ex-husband, I 100% believe that our relationship looks the way it does today because of how I chose to show up inside of the relationship. And the more that I practice what I'm going to teach tonight, the more that I get what I want. And what I wanted with him was a better co-parenting relationship than we had marriage. And that's what I'm getting. And I feel like he almost treats me better now than he did before. Are we right for each other? No. Are we aligned? No. But do we get along great today? I think so. It's really good. So I'm super grateful for that. And even with Mac, like Mac is amazing and he's done so much work on himself. But I know that like I would not have attracted a man like him unless I was the woman that I am today. And I wasn't born the woman that I am today. I became her. And I became her because I wanted a man like Mac. And so, through work, but how I show up inside of our relationship empowers me, it empowers him, and everybody gets what they want. And that's why I think that we have such a beautiful but different relationship, is because we both consciously choose to show up a certain way that empowers each of us. And I love that so much. I'm so excited to share that tonight. So that's going to be really cool. Let's see, at church this morning, they asked people to like they got up and they were like, everybody share their testimony with like Jesus Christ, like a testimony. And they wanted like people to come up and share, and they wanted like new people to come up and introduce themselves. And Matt, since Mac wasn't there with me, I was wrestling back and forth in my mind, like, do I go up there? Should I not? Like, do I go up there? No. Do I go up there? No. Well, eventually I did not. I did not go up to the front of the room, and I really wanted to. And then afterwards, I was kind of kicking myself, and um, but I wanted to because I wanted to share and I wanted to introduce myself. And I thought, what a perfect opportunity, like for me, to like be in the spotlight for a second without Mac there, and just be like, "Hi, like my name is Jen. I don't know anything about anything." My husband Mac, grew up in the Mormon church. He's not here today, but I'm just, excited to share. And like I wanted to share my testimony, but I didn't. So I thought, well, maybe I'll share it here on the podcast and start there and then move on. And so I thought I might just share that for a minute. So I'm going to go back, like, this is my testimony with Jesus Christ, I guess. Like, I think this is like, it's a testimony where you found him or God in your life, my testimony. And so I was thinking, like, what is my testimony? I think I have many testimonies, but the first one for me that came to mind was, um, many of you know, but some of you don't. I don't know. But I used to drink alcohol heavily. I have been sober for almost 6 years, and Mac is actually sober too. I think he's about 9 years sober, almost 6 years for me. And so my testimony is from like the week that I chose to get sober, because this was back in 2018. I just remember, like, so I drank heavily my whole life from the time I was like 21 until I was 32. So for 11 years of my life, I drank a lot. And at the end of my drinking days, my son had been born already. And I just remember like how badly I wanted to stop drinking, but then the nighttime would come around and I would just start drinking again. I'd wake up in the morning, um, really upset with myself. And then at nighttime, I'd go right back to drinking. And this was like every single night. It was like a wheel I was on. And I desperately wanted to get off of it. But I just, like most of us, I just, kept doing it because that's just what we do, right? And so I remember, like, I would lay in bed, usually in the mornings, like when I was feeling a little hungover, like really upset with myself, and almost like not praying, because I didn't really consciously pray back then. But I remember laying in bed just crying and like begging for my life to be different. I wanted to stop drinking. I wanted to love my husband. But ultimately, like, I just wanted to be happy. And so I would cry in bed, like wishing to be happy. And um during that time, like, I did start doing personal development and growth. And so I was growing, I was building up towards my happiness, but I was never really expecting to get sober. And but I knew I wanted to quit drinking too. And so there was, in July 2018, um it was 4th of July, like, week, and my mom called and she said, "Hey, like, I'm coming to Colorado for the week for 4th of July. Like, I'm so excited to see you," and she basically hung up. And so I was really excited for my mom to come spend the week with us, 4th of July, like all the things. And at this point in my like drinking journey, like, I knew I wanted to quit. I was ready. I just hadn't done it yet. Like, I wanted to so bad, just like I had been wanting to for like the past couple years. Like, I'd been wanting to quit. And my mom came to town. So my mom was coming. And so we pick her up from the airport on July 2nd. And my mom, she knew that I drank, but I don't think she knew how much I drank. And so July 2nd, she got there that day. That night, I had some drinks, but I kind of like, it was more like just in a cup where nobody really, they didn't know, but they knew, you know? And so I drank July 2nd, and July 3rd, it's kind of hiding. I was hiding, my drinking. And July 3rd, like we spent the day together. And on July 3rd, I kind of just like spent the day with my mom and with my son and just enjoying them and enjoying their company. And my mom is not a drinker. And so I was just having a really great time. I drank that night a little bit. The next day, July 4th, again, we had another just great day. And I said to myself, like in my own mind, I said, okay, Jen, like tonight is the last night. Tonight's the last night you're going to drink. And I was feeling pretty confident in my decision. And I know that like I made the decision that night because my mom was in town. I was ready. I felt good about it this time. This time felt different than any other time. And because her being there, like she offered me, like it was like an opportunity to like this now, if not now, then when. That was the mindset. If not now, then when. So I told myself, okay, July 4th. Okay, Jen, this is the last night you're going to drink. And so that night came along and I drank that night, and I actually drank less that night than I normally do, which was awesome. And I think I drank less that night because like I knew I was done and I was ready to be done, but I allowed myself that last night. And so I woke up the next morning and feeling good. We went up to the hot springs, so it was kind of like a really great pattern interrupt of my day. Her, my mom, and me, and my son, and we just enjoyed our day. I sat in a lot of gratitude that day, just for her, for him, for the experience, for just the being present. I saw how present she was, and I wanted that, and I just felt a lot of gratitude that day. And that night rolled around, and my husband at the time called me and he said, "Hey, do you want anything to drink tonight?" And that night I said, actually, I think I'm good. Like, no, I'm okay. He was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." And that was normal for him. Would call like every night. "What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink?" And I was like, "I'm good. I don't want anything." And so he didn't get me anything. And that night on July 5th, I put all my focus and attention into my mom and into my son, and just put my focus on them and not on what I wasn't doing, which was drinking. I didn't drink that night. And I felt good about it. It was hard for me to sleep that night because like when you quit drinking, sometimes you have I'll have night sweats, or so that it was a little bit difficult for me to sleep that night, but I knew that would pass. So I just rolled with it, right? Well, my mom ended up leaving. She had to go back to Phoenix. And so she went back. I was very sad because I just was so grateful that she was there. She was a great distraction for me. And I was gonna miss her because her being gone was gonna mean Jen had to go back to her normal life, back to like the routine. And I didn't want that. So I was really sad to see her go. But she left, and I just did what I could to remember like what I wanted. And what I wanted, the Jen I was becoming had to let the drinking go. So I focused on who I was becoming. And so, but my testimony, if you will, is that I was telling somebody like this exact story about the week that I got sober. And this was in July. This was the week, July 5th, July 5th, 2018. So I was telling somebody about this week, and she said to me, she said, Jen, that was God present in your life before you were present with him. Meaning, like, the way that it all worked out, my mom coming to town and me just so happened, like, I was ready that week. I took advantage that week. My mom came to town. I said that, I told her, I said, my mom was holding my hand that week when she didn't realize she was holding my hand. Like oh my God, I don't want to start crying. She was holding my hand without even knowing it, because she didn't know. She knew I drank, but she didn't know how bad it was and how much I wanted to quit. And her coming that week was my opportunity to stop. And she was holding my hand without knowing it. And this lady says to me, she said, no, she said, well, yes, but that was God present in your life before you were present with him. And like, when she said that to me, like, that really hit me, because I was like, I have never been so connected to anything like I am today. And I can look back on my life and see all the times where, God showed up for me when I didn't even realize, or I didn't know. And my mom, and the way it all worked out, like that week was a turning point for me, clearly, because I've been sober now for almost 6 years. I haven't drank since. And I can look back on my life and see all the times where God showed up, and God's always been like holding my hand through life. I always tell people that, like, and if you don't believe in God, or if whatever, you can use the words like the universe, God, but like, God always has my back, and he's always been there, and it's never been more real until today. But that was the first time I really realized that, like, he's always been there with me. And I feel like, blessed and grateful. So that is my like testimony to Jesus Christ. And when I was thinking about sharing that at church this morning, I was going to share that. I wanted to share that. Like, I wanted to share that, like, I was, I'm fairly new to the church world. I've, been going to Christian church for about 2 years, but I don't know anything about the Mormon church. Like, it's been a whole new experience. They do things so different. One thing is like the church, depending on where you live, that's the church you go to. So we had to look up like where we live, and then, okay, then this is the church you're supposed to go to. And it turns out that there are 37 families in this neighborhood that go to that church. And they call it a ward. So they go to that ward, which is kind of cool, because like, I had no idea. And so I'm like in the church, and everybody's like, where do you live? Where do you live? And I'm like, I live here. And they're like, I live there too. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So that's kind of cool. And then it's also like longer. So they do 2 hours. So they do 1 hour, everybody in a room together. And then the second hour, every other week. So 1 week, the women go to one room and the men go to another room. Or on the other week, the couples go to one room and all the children always go somewhere else. So there's like everyone together in one room for the first hour, and then the second hour everybody kind of breaks off and goes into like classes. And in the classes, it's just more like sharing, and it's just like deeper into everything. Like last weekend, the class, it was just the women in the class last weekend, and the whole topic was on parenting. And so they were talking about like guilt and worry and and parenting stuff. And I was like, this is really freaking cool. So I definitely enjoy it. I need to get myself, some new clothes because I see that most of the women, their dresses, they wear dresses. The most of them are longer than their knees. Not all of them I noticed today, but most of them are longer than their knees. And like no, not a lot of cleavage showing. And so like a couple weekends ago, I wore a shirt and Max said when he looked down, like it was very cleavagey. I'm like, well, it's really hard to cover that up because they are big. So, so yeah, so I've really enjoyed that. And it's just been a really fun experience. I also really enjoyed the other church we were going to too. And so the only reason I went to the church, the first church in the first place, was because I went on a date with this guy that I met on Hinge, which is a dating site before I met Mac. And we went on a date, and this guy was like, do you go to church? And I was like, no. And he's like, let me tell you about this church. He's like, I just started going there, and it is awesome. It's not like regular church. It's like the Pastor Jim. He's so cool. Like you should go. He's like, Pastor Jim has tattoos, and like, I'm like, really, really, like it's cool. And he's like, yeah. And so I just decided, I will say that this guy and we never went on another date. Like him and I weren't aligned, but because of his recommendation, the next weekend I went to that church and I loved it. So I said, try everything once, twice if I like it, three times to make sure. So I went, I loved it. I went the second weekend twice. I loved it again. And I went a third time and I thought it was great. And so I just continued to go on to that church. I just was doing it and I was loving it. So that was cool. And what's very interesting about that story is that Mac was going to the same church as I started going to. And so, okay, the guy that told me about the church, I've never seen him at the church. This is a big church. Um, Mac was going to this exact same church, but I don't ever think I ever saw Mac either, or I just wasn't paying attention because I kind of would just, go in, um, do the thing, and then I would leave. And so I'd kind of like maybe had my eye open, but I wasn't really paying attention too much. I guess I wasn't expecting for there to be like an incredibly handsome man there that wearing his Tony Robbins hat and just like everything, but whatever. But he went to the same church. And so when we went on our first date, when we started talking, he's like, church, and I'm like, yeah, I go to Flatirons. That's what it's called. I go to Flatirons, and he's like, I go to Flatirons too. I'm like, seriously? Like that's really funny. And so that was really cool. So we're just going and experiencing like new things, and I'm pretty open, and I love that. Like I focus on typically on the good. And so, when I first started going to church, even at the Flatirons church, like, I'd be triggered, not triggered, but they would say things and I would kind of like roll my eyes at it. But I don't really pay attention to that. I was focusing on what I loved about it. And what I loved about it was a lot of things. I loved a lot of things about it, but I especially loved how I've never really known much about what was all in the Bible. But when they start talking about it, I can see how all the things that I've learned in personal development, how they correlate, and the principles in the Bible of like how to live a happy life, how to be at peace, how to love, all these things I was learning all about all of that in my personal development stuff, and they all, not only did they correlate, but I was living it, and so I knew it to be true. And so when I'm hearing it come from the Bible now, I'm just like, "Oh my God." I'm like, yes, like this stuff works. It works because I'm living it." And I was living it before I even knew it was like coming out of the Bible. But it's like, however you say it, like the Bible, it comes out, when more like you kind of have to decipher it and it feels like religious and there's like triggers all around it for people. And there was for me too. But it's like when you learn the same principles in like language from personal development stuff, like it's all the same. That's why I say, like, talk about, you can talk about God, or some people prefer to say like the universe or whatever, but it's all energy and it's all connected and it's all the same, and the principles are the same. And so it's like, just you're just learning them in different places, but when you put them together and really see it to be true, it's like there are no limits, and everything is like bliss. It gets to be blissful. Everything is different when you start to do this work. And I'm not saying when you start, I mean, you go to church or when you start to get into like personal development, but when you can merge the two, like that's when really everything really started to connect and like blow up for me even more, because it was just more like validation that what I'm doing is right. And I love that. So I've really enjoyed that. I think I've babbled on here for quite some time, so maybe I'll get off here. I'm excited because tonight again is a master class I'm doing for women on how to influence your man in a positive way to get what you want. And it's really about how to show up as a woman to get what you want. And it's going to be a lot of good stuff in there, so I'm really excited to share. If you're listening to this there, before we start, message me if you want the link and I will send it to you. Otherwise, I'm going to go. Thank you for listening, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day. And yeah, I will talk to y'all soon. Next week, we'll see me and Mac here, hopefully. And I love you guys. Bye.